Hi there, and welcome to this short video about health and social care options at Level 3 from September 2024. As many people will know, a number of qualifications lose their funding from this September, and NCFE want to make sure that centres have got all the information at their fingertips to make informed decisions that will be best for their learners. And with that in mind, this webinar intends to go through several of the options that are available, how it works for different types of learner, and how we can build 16 to 19 programs out of those qualifications that are still funded. So let's dive straight in and look at the qualifications that are being defunded first of all. So the first thing to note is that from this September, what you would call the mainline Level 3 health and social care programs will no longer be funded for 16 to 19 learners. As you can see there, these qualifications were deemed to overlap with the health T level, and on the 1st of August 2024, they will no longer be available for funded enrolments. Now, the first thing to note here is that there is the nested certificate and extended diploma and the technical certificate and technical extended diploma. You won't see the Level 3 award on there, which actually sits below those two. That actually doesn't lose its funding until the following year. It's also important to note that none of these qualifications are just losing 16 to 19 funding. So the extended diploma, the certificate, and so on will not be withdrawn necessarily. They'll still be available for adult registrations and also those areas of the UK that sit outside the jurisdiction of T levels. Now, of course, these qualifications, amongst others, represent the bulk of 16 to 19 Level 3 health and social care delivery. And one of the key issues with the way the reforms have been done is that the health T level is an excellent qualification at delivering outcomes for those learners that maybe want to go on to adult nursing degrees. But as you can see, health and social care is not the same as just the health T level. So what we're kind of exploring today is, what are we doing for those learners who can't access the health T level, or who don't want the outcomes necessarily that the T level gives them? What programs can we run alongside that, adjacent to the T level, that would previously have been done by these qualifications? And what we're really talking about here is full study program qualifications, not necessarily small things that are run alongside A levels. There will be other qualifications that will fill those gaps, called AAQs. That's not necessarily a big worry for us. What we're really thinking about here is full 2-year Level 3 study programs. How do we fill that gap? So I think to kind of make clear here is that in the course of the post-16 reforms, and when it's all done and the dust is settled, there will be ostensibly 2 full program options at Level 3 for learners. There will be the T level in health, and there will also be an extended diploma in adult social care. Now, we're allowed to do that in the reforms because adult social care does not overlap on its own with the health T level. And that means that this qualification, which we'll be submitting quite soon to the DFE and IFE, will be much like the current health and social care extended diploma in its kind of size and structure, but more clearly related to adult social care. Because of its size, it will still have the same number of UCAS points, that is 168 UCAS points, for example, for a distinction star. And it will sit essentially as an adjacent offering to the T level. So we'll have the health T level, and we will have this Level 3 extended diploma in adult social care. So that sounds like a perfectly good landscape in the grand scheme of things. So we have to ask ourselves, well, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that the way in which the reform cycles work is that that extended diploma in adult social care, as it stands, will not be available for learners until September 2026. Now, we are in conversations with the DFE, who recognise there is a problem here, and are looking to potentially bring forward the release date of that extended diploma to September 2025. That is not confirmed yet at the time of filming this webinar, but we're optimistic. We're working with the DFE to confirm those timelines, and we hope that that should be the case. So what that leaves us with is 1 year where the Level 3 NCFE health and social care is not funded, and the following year, 2025, this new alternative offering will be available. So the webinar today is to explore, how do we fill that 1 year gap? So let's put these things on a timeline and kind of understand what fits where. So lot going on here, so let's take it line by line. So as you can see at the top here, we've got 16 to 19 funding, and this is for funded enrolments in September of each of these years. Important to note, apprenticeships not affected, full cost delivery not affected, adults not affected in the same way. This is just 16 to 19 study programs. So the health T-level we know is already funded and will continue to be funded into the future. And level 3 health and social care, the extended diplomas, as you can see, will lose their funding for this September. And as mentioned earlier, that new extended diploma in adult social care, something which is being referred to as a TOC, that's a technical occupational qualification, will go live either in 2025 or 2026. I've put the bar at 2025. I'm feeling very optimistic about that, so we'll go with that for the time being, but be aware that it could well be September 2026. Like I said, I think we're very, very keen to make sure it goes live in 2025 though. Now you can see there's a succession of other green bars down here that extend beyond 2024, and I want to explore those in more detail. So anything which is classed as an applied general in health and social care is funded for one more year than the classic extended diplomas. That is funded here in September 2024, and then eventually will lose its funding later on. Now, an applied general is an academic qualification, and they're primarily designed to sit alongside A-levels, so ours is a certificate, that's 360 GLH, but there's ways of utilising that in study programmes which could be of interest. Now, we do not have a diploma or extended diploma as an applied general, we only have a certificate, and I'll talk later about how you can use that, but it would be remiss of me at this point to not point out that there are other awarding organisations who have got applied general extended diplomas. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is that it's we want to make absolutely clear in this webinar that we're here to be open and honest in this conversation. If the best choice for your learners is to move to another awarding body's extended diploma applied general for that extra 1 year of funding, and that's absolutely fine. We will support you in that journey to move on to that for 1 year. Of course, we'll be delighted to have you back the following year onto our new adult social care extended diploma. But again, it's important that we lay that out now because we're not hiding anything. We're not trying to, muddy the waters or anything. There are other awarding organisations who will have an applied general extended diploma. But we've got the certificate, and it's important to point out that that goes on beyond that gap there. We also recognise that changing awarding body for 1 year and changing back again is an administrative burden that's very difficult. So we know that people will be looking for solutions to avoid that as well. So we want to help with that transition. Another thing to note here is I've put level 3 smaller qualifications. There's lots of small qualifications, particularly linked to adult social care, which are funded beyond September 2024. They could even be funded longer than this, in fact. But crucially, we're talking about that 1 year gap, so you can see the bar goes on further. We'll talk about how you can utilise those later. And although not in the same subject area, it's crucial again to remember that the education in early years T-level exists, and of course it's funded for lots of learners and is not similar to the health T-level, but sits in the same sector subject area 1, that's health, public services and care. And public services also getting a mention down here because level 3 extended diplomas in uniform public services are funded until August 2026. Now, of course, they're not a panacea that will fix all our ills there, but uniform services can be used in such a way as to be leading on to potentially health programs as well. So there's a number of, as I said, green bars here, which go beyond 2024 and could help us bridge the gap to that adult social care technical qualification that will appear in 2025 or 2026. So let's think about the outcomes that a lot of learners get from health and social care generally. So if we think about the potential destinations and then how we can advise learners correctly about maybe what their next path could be in lieu of doing the original health and social care diploma, we've got learners who could be going on to potentially adult nursing, midwifery, allied health degrees. Now for these learners, UCAS points are crucial. That's a very important part of what they need. They want to go on to university. Now, if I was meeting learners who wanted to do adult nursing, wanted to do midwifery, I would absolutely be advising them that the health T-level is their best option. And I would be saying, actually, you don't necessarily want to be looking at an alternative program. You want to get these learners and say the health T-level is the prime qualification in that space, and it will be the best way of getting yourself onto those degrees. But applied generals, of which we have a number, a certificate size, holds significant UCAS points as well. Now, of course, you won't necessarily get yourself straight onto an adult nursing degree with an applied general, but the kind of wider scope of health and social care degrees, you can build programs using the applied generals, and I'll give an example in a moment, that get significant numbers of UCAS points. So could still get learners onto a lot of allied health degrees, which often just stipulate a UCAS point number and then do a qualification in a health-related subject. And as long as one of those subjects is health and social care, they will meet the entry requirements. Now, if those learners want to go into the social care workforce, UCAS points are not necessarily an important aspect of what they want out of a level 3 study program. We'd recommend a study program made up of smaller adult care quals that are still funded beyond 2024. Again, I'll give some examples in a moment. Or there's no reason why those learners shouldn't be looking to do a level 3 lead adult care worker apprenticeship or a level 3 senior healthcare support worker apprenticeship. Again, apprenticeships unaffected by the funding of the reforms, so they are a very important option for learners moving forward. I've called specifically paramedic science out. Again, it's not necessarily all universities accept it, but you know, when we look at learners who do uniform public services in a college, yes, lots of them go into the military. Yes, lots of them go into the police force, the fire service, and so on. But the ambulance services and paramedic services will often accept learners who come from uniform public services. Now, we're not suggesting that the health and social care department needs to run their own version of uniform public services, but we're saying if a learner comes and says, actually, I'm interested in going and working in the ambulance service, you could direct that learner to uniform services and they would still hopefully get to their intended outcome. Because again, those uniform public services diplomas hold lots and lots of UCAS points. And then finally, it's not exactly a great crossover, but social work, youth work, things that maybe don't tie into health particularly, working with young people. We do find that lots of learners who've done the education in early years T-level, not all of them progress into early years educator roles or indeed supporting teaching and learning roles. They move into kind of youth work, kind of just working with young people roles. And that's another thing to kind of consider there. You know, if you're trying to make a program out of smaller qualifications, actually is the best route for that learner just the education in early years T-level. They could still get themselves a role within something like youth work or social work. Again, it holds lots of UCAS points. So for social work degrees, for example, could be quite useful. So thinking about these, obviously, there's no need to delve really deep into, you know, what's in the health T-level and what's in the early years T-level and so on. But what I want to do is just delve under the skin a little bit of the applied generals option and the study program of smaller qualifications, because that's the only two I think that aren't self-explanatory on this slide. So what do I mean by those two? How could you utilize applied generals? So applied generals, to start with, have an extra year of funding, one extra year than health and social care. So they would bridge the gap for that 1 year of learners who can't do a funded level 3 program. Now, there are two applied generals in our portfolio that relate sort of to this sector. And there we've got a certificate in early years childcare and education and a certificate in health and social care. Both of those are 370 guided learning hours, meaning that if you put the two together, you would have a 740 guided learning hours program. Now, if we think a full 2-year level 3 program has guided learning hours, or it did have 1080 guided learning hours. It's now 1,160 with the extra 40 per year. A 740 guided learning hour set of qualifications is pretty substantial. And what we've found is that a number of our centres have said that they're going to run both of the applied generals. They're going to enrol the learners at the start on year 1 in September 2024, run them parallel to each other, much like a learner would do A-levels parallel to each other, and then maybe pop an EPQ on top of that. It depends on what the UCAS point need is, because this table here shows the UCAS points for an applied general. So a distinction star, 56 UCAS points is a significant number. Now, if you were doing 2 applied generals there, you've got to then double those numbers. So you can see with no EPQ on top whatsoever, a learner who gets a distinction would get 96 UCAS points, and a learner who gets 2 distinction stars would get 112. But also what you can see is that if you add an EPQ on top of that, now EPQs are small extended project qualifications, which people often use to augment study programs and add on UCAS points. They're graded A star to E, and an A star is usually 28 UCAS points. Then it sort of goes down from there. And just a couple of examples down there, if you were going to run 2 applied generals and an EPQ, which would comfortably fit within the learning hours expected of a 2-year program. You know, if a learner got distinctions in their applied generals and then a C in their EPQ, that would give them 112 UCAS points. And that is enough to get onto a lot of university courses, not all, but a lot. And if a learner got 2 distinction stars and an A star in their EPQ, they're looking at 140 UCAS points. Now, given that the current health and social care extended diploma or any other kind of extended diploma, which has a distinction star in it, would normally be 168 UCAS points for a distinction star. 140 is not that far away, and that will get you onto almost all university courses. So the applied general route is a good way of creating a program that garners lots and lots of UCAS points. It's a very efficient way of getting UCAS points. It's not appropriate for all learners. We understand that early years, childcare, health, and social care is quite a broad program. But ultimately, a lot of these learners might not know what they want to do at the start of the course. They may want to work in care, they might change their mind and want to work with young people. And what something like this would do is allow them the option of being able to kind of float around and decide what they want to do. And this would be for the September 2024 intake, teaching this. When you then get to September 2025, of course, these will be defunded. But at that point, we will have our extended diploma in care, which will kind of sit as the option that sits kind of in between the education and early years T-level and the health and social care T-level. So what we've got here is a very UCAS point heavy bridging program, which I think would work very, very well for a certain type of learner. So those that want to go to university could look at this. But if we then think about the learners who actually want to do, say, go straight into a social care workforce role, well, what I mean by smaller qualifications is there are lots and lots of level 3 certificates which are not specifically related to the health T-level, which are therefore not going to be defunded. Now, we have a list on our website of everything that has retained its funding. Now, if you're thinking about a general qualification that would fit in there, of course, the applied generals are general, but we could also look at the level 3 award in health and social care is still funded for another year. And the one at the top there, the level 3 certificate in preparing to work in adult social care. Both of those qualifications are not a sort of general social care themed things, but there is then a plethora of smaller things in quite specialist subject areas. So the ones up there are things like dementia care, end of life care, autism awareness, mental health awareness, infection control, and so on. So if I had a group of learners that I knew wanted to go work in adult care, maybe in nursing homes or so on, perhaps a program like this might be more appropriate. So we go, okay, we'll base it around the level 3 preparing to work in adult social care, and we'll then augment that with a dementia care and an end of life care certificate. And that creates a funded learning aim of 515 guided learning hours. You've then got 65 more learning hours to make up with your non-qual time, and could be a placement perhaps in there as well. And what that would do is twofold. One, it allows good progression into the workforce. It does not give a significant number of UCAS points, that must be said. So this is not an appropriate route for learners who potentially want to do this over 2 years, because this is a 1-year program. So a learner comes in, they do 1 year of working in adult social care, and then they of training to work in adult social care, and then they can go out and get a job. But something that is interesting is that if you think about the new extended diploma that's going to be coming in adult social care in a year's time, we can then start to talk about the prospect of RPL, that's prior learning, like recognizing prior learning. So if we go back to the timeline very briefly, if you were going to build a set of qualifications here in 2024, and then a new qualification comes in here, and your intention might be, well, hang on, why don't we teach in 2024 a whole load of social care content that's linked to these smaller quals? And then what is stopping us from RPLing that learning into this qualification so learners could jump straight into year 2? Well, there's nothing in theory stopping you from doing that. You know, as soon as we have the draft specification approved for the adult social care qual, we will publish it, and we will support any centres who want to try and do that. We certainly would imagine that in the new adult social care qual, significant quantities of this qualification would be appearing in it, and I would, be fairly sure that dementia care and end of life care would be making an appearance in the new qualification. So it could be that significant amounts of the new extended diploma has already been covered, and that learning can be transferred in, and the learner can finish off the second year. And why is that good? Well, because if we transfer onto the new extended diploma, that's going to have loads of UCAS points. Again, 168 for a distinction star. So it gives us a bit of flexibility that we've got a 1-year program that could just be used to prepare learners for the workforce, away they go. And then there's the option of saying, actually, can we look to RPL into this new qual if you want to stay for a second year? I can't definitely at this point tell you exactly what's inside that new extended diploma in adult care because it's not been written yet. It's about to be submitted to the DFE and IFATE, but it's only half done. But we would be delighted to help centres map that out and help them understand how they could achieve that in September 2025. Now, what I would say is that, with all of this, it's very, very difficult the next few years. It would have been very nice if the DFE had just funded health and social care up until the point the new adult social care extended diploma came online. What we've done is we've got a website, which hopefully, once this webinar is filmed, it will be appearing on that website. But it sort of sets out a lot of the things that I've just talked about. It gives example programs. It sort of explains where your learners could go. But crucially, at the top, we have this form to fill in here. And if you fill that form in, it will come through to us, and one of our experts will be in touch to help plan your curriculum for September 24, give you expert guidance on what is and isn't funded. Now, with all that in mind, I think it's important to say, as I said, that the September 24 is going to be a tricky year. There's a number of things, as I said, not funded, but we've got this selection of things that you can make programs out of, and we want to be as flexible as possible in supporting centres. We believe we've got options like the Applied General, like the Health T-Level, that are very UCAS point heavy, that can allow learners to progress to university. And we also have those smaller adult social care qualifications, which are very good for getting learners into the workforce. And ultimately, what you choose to run next year is all down to what you think is best for your learners. And at NCFE, we are absolutely committed to making sure that you have all the information available to make the correct decision for your learners, as I said at the start. And our account executives, our product managers, we want to help you plan and make those decisions effectively. If you want to stay with NCFE, we will help you design a curriculum out of everything we've got funded. And if you believe that the best course of action is to move to another awarding body for that 1 year, then we will absolutely support you in that transition and give you all the information you need to do that. Ultimately, it's going to be, as I said, a bit of a rocky road ahead, but at NCFE, we are 100% committed to make sure you've got what you need for the coming year. So I hope that was useful. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. As I said, fill the form in on that website, get in touch. We'd love to find out what you're planning next year, and we'd love to help you design the best curriculum for your students. Thanks very much for listening, everyone.